Hello, Internet. Sun's back in my face. This time, it's in my face outside. Looking into my house today, switching it up. A couple of weeks ago, in my historical fiction video, I was talking about how I am so sick of watching couples in movies just fall in love with each other way too quickly and way too far, and how for this week, I wanted to look at some of the real-world consequences of this. So this week, I'm looking at, if they were books, they'd be in the YA or contemporary fiction genres. That's where we're at, genre-wise. As I was watching these films, you realize it's not just about the consequences of this kind of love, but how damaging it is to personhood. I realized as I was watching them that I think I was so drawn to this topic because I've experienced relationships like this myself. I was the one facing the consequences of being idealized. I know normally my case study videos are more comedic rantings about how dumb movie love stories are. I think this is an important enough topic that I need to talk about it in video essay form, because I think that the way that our films are structured allows for a slippery slope to objectify a person and even strip them of their identities. I'm going to talk about how that works. For my own records, I'm going to quickly go through these statistics, but I don't want to dwell on them because it doesn't really seem appropriate in this context. For this video, these are the movies I will be spoiling. These ones. So just really quickly, 3 of the relationships ended up together. 2 of them were half distracting because I didn't like one or both of the characters, but none of the relationships themselves distracted from the plot, and none of them were particularly unnecessary. They all drove plot or character development in some important way that would be lost if it was removed. Now to the actual discussion, which I like to call the slippery slope of idealized love. I call it a slippery slope, but there are noticeable steps to it, and conveniently each of the films that I chose for this fit into one of those steps. So step 1 is innocent misunderstanding. This is the type of idealization that starts in its most innocent form. It's a person assuming what another person wants, and not in a manipulative way. It can be in a really sweet way. In The Perks of Being a Wallflower, Charlie doesn't ask Sam out because he thinks that that's not what she wants. In normal circumstances, that seems polite. That seems like the right thing to do. You shouldn't force something onto someone that they don't want. But in her then becoming the person that he admires from afar, she starts to feel like she's not relationship material, that the real her isn't good enough, only her idealized self. The line that sticks out the most to me in this film that encapsulates this is, I don't want to be somebody's crush. You know, having a crush on somebody, it's innocent, it's cute, but if you hold on to a crush, that could turn into making someone feel, like in Sam's case, like she wasn't worth taking that extra step, that she's only good if she can be admired from afar. And this is the most innocent form of idealized love, and most people probably don't know when they're doing it. It can hurt people's feelings in smaller ways as well. And it's when you take this further that you start seeing really damaging effects on relationships and personhood. The next step is the assumed soulmate. In 500 Days of Summer, Summer is explicit about what she wants out of her relationship with Tom. She doesn't want anything serious, she just wants something casual, and he accepts that because he secretly thinks that he can convince her to date him. That means that he's then treating her wishes as less important than his, because if only I can just persuade you to see it my way, that becomes manipulative. And he dismisses these wishes because it doesn't square with his idea that he and Summer are soulmates. Because he decided that so quickly, it didn't really give Summer the opportunity for him to get to know her. He decided who she was and got angry with her when she didn't conform to that version of herself. And this is the sort of relationship I've experienced. Can you imagine? It sucks to think that you would be compared to somebody else, but can you imagine if that somebody else was a better version of you? Just imagine what that does to your brain. It's a really sucky way to live, and that's how he made her feel, and you can see her discomfort right before she breaks up with him. He doesn't know her. He knows his soulmate and just decided that was Summer. When she consistently holds up the exact thing that she said at the beginning and he continues to ignore that, that starts to make someone feel less than themselves, and that's such a weird way to feel. If you take that even further, this becomes the creation of a miracle. This is when you put someone so far up on a pedestal that you completely strip them of an identity. In Paper Towns, Q doesn't see Margot as a real person. He sees her as a miracle. But it isn't just Q. Margot has been made out to be the myth, the legend, the mystery so much that she doesn't even know who she really is, because all she knows about herself is what other people assume about her. And she admits used to playing into it because it made people talk about her. It made her feel like people were interested in her. But she comes to realize, and this is why she runs away, that she has no idea who she is now because she wasn't able to form an identity for herself. Other people formed her identity for her. Forget not living up to yourself. This is about people forcing identities onto her so she loses her own sense of self. Doing this strips people of their identities. And then in addition to that, she finally gets out. She finally escapes, and Q follows her because he decides that's what she wants. This goes into step 2 territory about, deciding what someone wants and not really caring about what they want. It's true, he does accept that he did the wrong thing at the end, but not very many people would. She still can't escape the myth even after she's escaped the town because people have decided what she wants and that she wants to be found. Makes people feel like themselves, and they now have to figure out who they are apart from what other people have decided about them. If you take that one step further, you get to flat out objectification. Idealization can then go so far that we don't even consider our love interests people anymore, but objects. In Mean Girls, Katie refers to Erin as Regina's property, as though she owns an item. This is a very common girl code concept, that you can't date someone else's ex, but in this context it's more about Regina owning him than hurting Regina's feelings. Now this is a very interesting case because it's the boy being objectified instead of the girl, but the damaging implications are still there. This is supposed to be Katie at her absolute bitchiest, but we see her bossing Erin around. We see her getting upset with him when she doesn't immediately jump to her after he gets his heart broken. He is a conquest, not a person, and it's deeply offensive to him. She doesn't get him back until she starts to treat him like a person again. And the final step in the slippery slope is full-on manic pixie dream girl. And this is when someone doesn't have any identity as a person or an object. Now, a manic pixie dream girl is now generally considered to be an offensive term, but it came up a lot in my research for this. So I do want to do something else on it a bit later to deconstruct it more in detail. But for right now, the term is based on a legitimate criticism of female characters in film. It's a character who has no discernible motivation, characterization, apart from making love interest life better. They're a static character, they do not grow, but they facilitate the growth of someone else. Elizabethtown was the film that resulted in the coining of this term. So obviously we have the pinnacle of the manic pixie dream girl in this film. But in it, Claire, the love interest, is so apart from everything that Roger Ebert didn't even consider her a character. He thought she was an angel come to save the suicidal Drew's life and just decided to stay on Earth. So this takes objectification to another level. She's not even a human. She's a stock character. Drew shows hardly any interest in her life, and so we know nothing about her. This is the unrealistic relationship taken to the fictional extreme. It instills an idea in viewers that having a relationship that's purely beneficial to you is acceptable, and it isn't. One of the things that really stood out to me was the very beginning of 500 Days of Summer, when the narrator describes Tom's entire worldview as coming from a complete misreading of The Graduate. And that's how I see how relationships have devolved. I know what it's like to be Summer because people think it's acceptable to idealize their partner. It's really only seen as acceptable because we see it happen all the time, and it just gets subliminally indoctrinated into our culture. And that's why all of these films that annoyed the crap out of me have love happening so quickly, is because that's what we just assume should happen. We have 2 hours to kill, but we need other stuff to happen, so let's just shove them together and move on with the plot. But that can subliminally really hurt the way that people perceive relationships, and that can hurt other people's feelings like mine. I needed this to be a video essay type video rather than a comedic one because I know how it feels and I know how damaging it is, and this is a slippery slope. People don't go into this maliciously. If you look at any of the main characters in these films, except for Katie, whose journey to bitchiness is the point of the whole film, they're not doing this to people to be terrible to them. With Summer, Sam, and Margot, their partners think they're doing the right thing for them. It's only that they don't actually ask their partners what they want. They just assume, where it becomes damaging. And I think it's really important that we understand the difference. Doing something because you think that's what they want and doing something because it's what they actually want. It's a terrifying slippery slope that has real world consequences, and I just think it's important to get that out there. I do still want to go a bit more in depth into the concept of a manic pixie dream girl, of a character who exists to facilitate the growth of someone else, because I do think that that can also have damaging effects, but I just think it was important to get out there. Again, because it's obligatory and it's for my own records, I have to award my favorite couple, and that is obviously Sam, and Charlie. Do you know me? I know this was more serious than my usual topics of conversation, but thank you for watching anyway. I did hope you like it, even if it isn't comedic and it isn't me bouncing off the walls or whatever. Seriously, thank you for watching. If you did, please like and hit the subscribe button. I really appreciate it. I will put all of my social medias into the description box as usual. I'd love to hear your thoughts as well, so please don't hesitate to contact me. As a reminder, I post new videos on Fridays, so I'll see you next week. Bye.